Thank you for listening to the BJJ Brick Podcast. We'll be bringing you Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and good times. We hope to flatten your Jiu-Jitsu learning curve, help you get the most out of your grappling ability, and meet your goals both on and off the mat.
Welcome back, my friends. Episode 85 of the BJJ Brick Podcast. I'm Gary, as always. I haven't changed, and I got my partner here, Byron. How are you, Byron?
Hey, Gary, I'm doing good.
Awesome.
Staying
That's
busy.
Great to hear. Yeah, I was going to say, what have you had going on there, Byron? I know I haven't been able to get a hold of you lately.
I'm moving, so not all that far, and not nothing crazy, but in my life's kind of up in the air. Stuff is in between houses, and one of the last things to go is the computer. So I figured we could do one more episode at this old location, and then I'll pack it all up and hopefully hook it all up again.
We'll move to a new recording studio.
Yeah. So
I was going to say we have an awesome show today. We have a great guest today, James Puopolo. He's going to be here, and I know we kind of gave you a little hint last week, but it's a funny yet very informative interview. He's a funny guy. He kept us on our toes, and he had us laughing numerous times. Yeah,
I'm just amazed that the interview starts with him like joking around. Like everybody, I don't think we do the hardest interview in the world. We usually have fun, but he was so relaxed and just having fun with it. It started off with like him making jokes about things, and it just got better. Good times.
We were as he started making the jokes, we're looking at each other and like, man, this is going to be a great interview. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, we're already looking forward to getting him on again and on a future date.
Definitely.
Gary, we do have, if somebody wants to support the podcast here, we have an audiobook available for sale, $11.99. You'll find a link to it on the show notes or on the website, bjjbrick.com. The audiobook is called Your First Year in BJJ, and really just trying to help new students go through their first year and get the most out of it as possible. And it's a great way to support the show. And so far, it's helping to cover the cost of like media hosting and all the other stuff that goes on behind the scenes of a podcast. So,
yeah, definitely, we're not in this to make $1 million. We're not in this to make $1. But it would be nice to. I know Byron puts out a lot of his own money there for the stuff, and it'd be nice to make that a little bit easier. But as always, Byron's a great teacher. He's taught me a lot, and he can really help you through your first year of jiu-jitsu. It's a great little roadmap to help you through the peaks and valleys.
Yeah, I'm not opposed to making a buck here or there, but coming up on 2 years on the podcast, it'd be nice to start breaking even. And it looks like we're starting to get there, Gary. So
that's good to hear.
Yeah, that's a good note, and we do appreciate every. I get an email when we do sell a book, and I get it's like all right, like a pat on the back, somebody giving us some positive support. And if you don't want to get the book, you'd also send us an email at our bjjbrick@gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook if you have any comments.
Yeah, we'd love to hear the comments. We'd love to talk to everybody and email everybody. It's neat to hear what you guys think. Positives, even negatives. We'd like to hear negatives. We want to get better. It's just like jiu-jitsu. So if you think there's anything we could do better, let us know. If you know anybody that we should interview, let us know. Or even if it's yourself. We've had some people do that before, and great interviews. So we're always looking for new and interesting ideas that'll help everybody who's listening.
Yeah, if you're able, we're not able to get everybody who wants to be on the show, but if you've got some interesting ideas and you're excited about a few different topics about jiu-jitsu, hit us up and we'll see what we can do for you.
And especially if you're a female jiu-jitsu person. We've been trying to attract some females to the show, and I'm not sure if they think we're creepers or what, but we just want to have a cool interview. I'm
reminded of getting shot down as a young single guy. I send out emails to various female athletes, and I don't get a lot of responses, unfortunately. I don't know what the deal is. So if you have a connection, let us know, and we'd be happy to contact her and get her on. It's been a little bit challenging to try to get some female guests, and I know that our female listeners would definitely appreciate that, and the male. It's always interesting to get both perspectives. But Gary, with two guys like us, with our subtle good looks, is how I'm describing our good looks. Gary is subtle.
Have you seen my new haircut?
No,
it's definitely not subtle good looks.
Is it hidden good looks, or what do we got here?
I don't know. I shaved my head, and everybody's been laughing.
Oh man!
So I don't think that was a very good idea.
Well, it'll grow back. Most of it will, Gary.
Well, that's what I figured, except for the line around the top of the head where people put me in headlocks when they got side control.
That doesn't grow back.
No, yep.
That does not grow back, my friend. All right, well, let's get on with our quote of the week. We have PJ Wakus delivering the quote, so here we go.
Helson Gracie said, the big, strong, tough guy goes to class and he keeps getting tapped by the skinny, technical guy. So it begins to change him. It makes him humble. That's what jiu-jitsu does to you. It makes you humble, and that's absolutely true. It's a big part, and I think that's a big learning experience that everybody has to go through, because there's always somebody who's better than you, who's much smaller than you are.
and it forces you to admit that. I mean, there's no gray area there. It's either you tap or you don't tap, or you get
absolutely. Yeah, but there comes a moment of clarity for people. Absolutely.
Yeah. And I find that it kind of transfers over to off the mat. I'm more humble. I'm more accepting of my own failures off the mat because I've failed so many times on the mat. It's just part of who I am. It's part of who everybody is. They fail sometimes.
Yeah. My instructor Bongiorno said that he said, for as much as you guys think you're getting tapped, he said, the only reason why I'm a black belt is because I've been tapped, so many more times than you guys have, more times than you'll ever be able to think about. So
that was PJ Wakus presenting the quote from Helson Gracie. The big, strong, tough guy goes to class, and he keeps getting tapped by the skinny, technical guy. This begins to change him. This makes him humble. Or that makes him humble. That's what jiu-jitsu does to you. It makes you humble.
And that is so true. You think about when you first started. I can give an example. When I first started, I wasn't necessarily the big guy, but I wasn't the little guy. I was kind of in between, but I worked out a lot. I thought I was in great shape. I thought I was strong. And I remember the first day I actually trained, there was a guy that was actually bigger than me, but he kind of looked like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Looked like he had no... doesn't even look like he could run across the room. Looks like he couldn't do a push-up. And I just remember, okay, I got paired with this guy when we first started rolling. I was like, okay, I should be able to put him in a headlock and twist his head off, I'm thinking. And I just remember just getting tapped out every which way possible with no effort whatsoever. And I just remember it's like, whoa, what happened here? And that's what it does. I mean, you get tapped out a lot, and it's good for you. It does make you humble, and like you said, it helps you not only on the mat, it helps you off the mat. We're all going to fail. That's not failing. We all tried. We got in there. We got tapped out. It happens. And like what PJ was saying about his instructor, that the only reason I'm a black belt, I've got tapped out more times than you. You've got to get in there. You've got to put yourself in some bad positions. You're going to get tapped out, and that's how we're going to learn. We're going to become humble.
Yeah, it's important what you said there. Getting tapped out is not failing. It can sure feel like it, depending on when it happens in your career or in your jiu-jitsu journey. But look at it as a lesson learned, and try to go from that. If it's just every day at class, you quickly become accustomed to that, and it's no big deal. But if it's at a point in time, at a tournament, and you're really hoping to win, and you are able to give your best effort, and you get caught, or you just come up short, try to learn something from that. Try to pull something away from that, and it will definitely help you grow and get better. And many stumbles along the way of this journey. It's not a smooth road, jiu-jitsu. So, great quote there.
Yeah, that's true. And, you think about it, where you are today. You've got 12, 13 years into this game. And so now you're kind of in the upper echelon where you don't get tapped out like you did when you were 3 or 4 years in or 3 months in. Do you sometimes feel like you wish you were back in that spot where you wish you could be the bottom guy in the room? Because I know I do sometimes. I'm just wishing that I was just in a room with a bunch of freaking lions that just could tap me out anytime they want. I don't know. Sometimes I do miss that. It's weird to say that, but I wish I could be that guy who was at the bottom. You
say upper echelon. I think we're this lower upper.
I'm saying upper echelon of where we're at. I'm not saying we're upper echelon people, but with the guys we train with.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's sorry for saying that.
No, it's fun. I'm just making a joke, man. It like upper, lower, middle class, all that sort of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's a time that most white belts don't appreciate. Is that most people in the room can tap them out. It's a frustrating thing, but it's a time of like a crazy amount of growth. Like we'll never grow that fast again.
True. Yep.
So it's a bumpy road, but try to acknowledge that you're learning a lot and that you're growing a lot quicker than you will as a black belt. Now I'm lucky. You get half dozen people in the room that could give you a good match, and you might get caught once or twice in the evening, but the days of the average blue belt kicking your butt every time, man, those are good days to
those
learn.
were the good, yeah. And I remember, I'm not sure what guest it was, but I remember we had a guest down here, and they were talking about the 3 different types of training partners you needed. You needed the guy who can you can just do anything you want. You can practice all your moves. Then there's that guy who's even with you, and you guys just go at it. When you're done, you're both sweating. One day you may get him, next day he may get you, and then you also got to have that guy who basically your instructor, the guy who can put a beat down on you if he wants to, the guy who can basically tap you out pretty easily. And it's nice when you have that. You have a little bit of everything. You can work your offense. You can have a very, very competitive match, and then you can have one where you're just playing defense the whole time and playing catch up. I think that's a great way to learn there too.
Yeah, I agree, Gary. The music is telling us that it is time for the article of the week, my friend. So let's keep the ball rolling, or keep the ground game in motion.
Keep the grappler doing the forward rolling.
Yeah, until I get a headache.
But no, we got a good one for you this week. It's from our buddy Ricardo again from Jiu-Jitology. The article is "What Can the Stock Market Teach You About Jiu-Jitsu?" And we're not here to talk about what stocks you should buy. We're here to talk about jiu-jitsu.
Yeah. So any investment advice that Gary and I dispense today is to be taken. We're not professionals, so. Right, Gary, you got to say that.
And we're not professional grapplers either. So. But Byron can sure teach you how to fight a fire.
Maybe. Yeah, put water on that thing and try to hope it goes out quicker than it's growing. But this is he said he's just reading a lot of books lately, and he's reading a little bit of financial books, and anytime you kind of jump outside the world of jiu-jitsu and you try to make comparisons, usually it's not that hard, and usually you have a different perspective on what you're thinking about jiu-jitsu. And he did that. Stock market has ups and downs, and when it's up, everybody's excited and they buy, and then it starts to go down. And I've seen friends do this. It gets down and they get depressed about it and they sell. It's like, dude, you just sold a chunk of market that you're not going to get back, and you just had a huge loss on that. That's
just wait a little while; it's going to come back.
So that's like the classic buy low, sell high. But most people can't really do that well. They buy high and sell it when it's low.
Yeah, and like you said, you get emotionally invested.
Yeah. So how was this translate by our friend Ricardo to jiu-jitsu, Gary?
Well, he just talks. He talks about. He tries to experiment. He talks about putting himself in bad spots, and he says he's got 3 reasons. First of all, it develops his defense. Secondly, it truly tests his ability to remain calm under pressure, which is very important. And last but not least, it allows him to win the emotional battle over the training partner, opponent, when he can escape. And kind of what he goes on to talk about is when he puts himself in bad positions, he notices that when he's on the bottom, which count the stock market, you're at the bottom. It's the bottom's dropping out. he's not using as much energy as that guy on top. And he's talking about the guy on top gasses out that much quicker. He knows that he's in a good position, thinks he can finish the match, get a submission, finish the match, and he just goes all out just to finish it. And then he doesn't finish it, and next thing you know, he's got nothing left. And it's just kind of a cool comparison when he realized that the guy on the bottom is the guy working harder.
Yeah, the guy in the bad position often does not get as tired as the person in the good position, and this shouldn't be this way, but it's a common thing to see, and I've experienced this many times. I think looking back, the most common things, I think when I was blue belt and below, maybe a little bit in the purple, I get a guillotine, and I get tired as I apply the guillotine. You know, you put effort and energy into that, and then you gas, and then the guy pops his head out. And as soon as the pressure's off, the person is fine. Like, well, that did not work, and now I'm tired. Yep. And the same thing with triangle earlier on. You know, you throw that triangle on, and it looks like it's good, and you do everything. You throw it all into it, and they get out, and they immediately go to pass your guard because you're exhausted, and you know you're a step behind. So those are two common ones, you know. And I do see it in people get mount or side control, and it's like, man, you are breathing harder than I am. You know, I say, hey, you're in a good position. You know, I try to remind them that use that to your advantage.
Yeah, and I like what Ricardo says. When you're in a good spot, remember you're in that good spot. This is the time to relax and work smart. I love that. Work smart to get a better position advantage in submission. So remember where you're at. You always heard the old adage, position over submission. You got that great position. Work smart. Relax a little bit. Know where you're at. And then get moving. Yeah,
here's a drill that I like to do sometimes just to mix things up is start in a bad position, you know, bottom on mount, you know, bottom on a side control, someone on your back, and use minimal energy to try to defend yourself. And I'm talking like very relaxed, and let the person use whatever energy, you know, whatever they want to do to try to finish you, and just try to not get tapped. And I always, when we do this, I say, if you're not getting tapped at all, you're using too much energy. You should like, you're right on that border of occasionally getting tapped and then trying not to get tapped, but really just staying relaxed. And if you get caught, that's fine. It's just part of the training. And it really helps you see where that fine line is, of where you could push and what you could wiggle out of, you know, and try not to freak out, you know, in that time that you're in a bad spot. That's a drill that I really like, and I'm going to start doing that more. I used to do it quite a bit, and I've probably done it once in the past 3 or 4 months, but I'm going to bring that back.
Yeah, you've always been known for doing that bad position drills. I remember when me, you, and a few others would always work on Friday nights, and that's what we do. We'd put ourselves in bad positions, and then I remember you were telling me you started this with your Friday night class there, you know, doing as little energy as possible, and I just remember back from working with you, and that really helped my game a lot, and I do feel like I'm a lot more comfortable when I'm in bad spots because of that. I think that really, really helped tighten my game up a little bit and allow me to remain calm, which will keep my gas, so when I do switch positions and I can go into deeper waters.
Yeah, it's just I think a helpful drill, and it just reminds you that even if you're in a bad spot, you could relax. It's kind of I like this article. It does shine the light on the fact that many times when you get a good position, you know, whether it be like a near submission or there's a dominant position, if you're not careful, you could get pretty darn tired in that position, and then end up, you know.
And there's nothing worse when you don't finish. You get tired, you don't finish. Next thing you know, you got reversed. You didn't finish, and he's in the great position then. And at that point, you just lost your heart. It's you start mentally losing. You're tired. You're mentally out of it. You just you had a great position, you lost it. It's tough to recover.
Yeah. So check out the article, jiu-jitology.com. We'll put a link to it in the show notes or on the website there. Our friend Ricardo.
Yep, and definitely also check out his store. He's got some T-shirts on there, some awesome stuff, and he's a great guy. And we've had him on before, so definitely go back and check out his episode.
Absolutely. He actually has 2 because we got to talking, and we talked to him for so long.
That's right.
Cut that thing in half and got 2 episodes. So check out the first one first, and then the second one, you know, after that.
Or if it's opposite day, hit the second one first and then go to the first one.
I remember opposite day here. That's been a while, man.
You don't have little kids, so I'm still into opposite.
Is that still a thing?
That's still a thing. It's timeless.
I wonder why all the kids
timeless.
were calling me cool that one day, but he must have been opposite day, man. All right, well let's hit up the interview with James Puopolo. What do you think there?
Let's get to the interview. All
right, we'll catch you at the end of the show here. He is the most interesting grappler in the world.
He once wrist-locked an opponent and broke the guy's back. He rolls no-gi because he grips the skin better anyways. Cro-Magnon Man started walking upright after he got double underhooks on him.
Some say keep your friends close and your enemies closer. I have choked all my friends, and my enemies are nowhere to be found. Let the sweat times roll, my friends.
All right, my friends, I'm happy to bring James Puopolo to the BJ Brick Podcast. James, how are you doing?
I'm really well, thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for getting on here with us. We're looking forward to getting to know you a little bit better and hearing about what you have coming up and what you've been doing.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to share some knowledge, and it's a great way to spend a Saturday morning, for sure.
Yeah, James, we were just talking before we got on the air here. The proper pronunciation of your name. Could you make sure we did that right?
Yeah, it's Puopolo.
Puopolo.
So, yeah, no, not Pope or Poop or anything like that. Puopolo.
So that's good to know. Get that up front here.
For sure.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself if somebody hasn't heard of you yet? A little bit like who and where you're from and what you do.
Yeah, I'm a black belt under Rafael Lovato Jr. Out in a lot of people kind of think I'm out in Oklahoma, but I'm from Oregon. I've been raised out here and have lived in Oregon my whole life. So I'm kind of more of a remote student, I guess. I see Rafael a lot when I travel out there and when he comes out. I run an academy out here. I used to be a school teacher before that, and so I made the transition. I've been full-time jiu-jitsu for the last 2 years. Yeah, just living the dream. I love teaching jiu-jitsu. I love training. Been trying to do my best at all these competitions and keep climbing the ladder, and I think this is really going to be a big year. So.
Hey, James, you mentioned you were a school teacher. What grade did you teach and subject?
I was a middle school math teacher, so 6th and 7th grade math. If you guys need help with any fractions, anything like that, I'm your guy.
So he's the guy to help us on the 50-50 guard, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
That's pretty good, Gary. He'll break down the 50-50. You know, fractions are not so bad until you get to multiply and divide the things, and then I can't remember how that works out. So.
Yeah. Neither can any of the students I taught.
Oh, that's funny. What's the name of your school there?
I'm in Salem, Oregon. So it's Salem-Keizer Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So SKBJJ.
Awesome. Hey, and I know you spend a lot of time on the mat there. What do you like to do off the mats to relax or just have fun?
For sure. I've been really, now that I'm doing jiu-jitsu full-time, been able to have more downtime. It's obviously still super busy running a business and trying to get that all off the ground and to where I want it to be. But off the mats, I do a lot of chilling, a lot of hanging out. My wife and I are lucky, like I said, to live out here in Oregon. So lots of cool places to hike and get to go to the city. We're about an hour from Portland, so I'll go up to Portland. We're actually going to go up there tonight and have some dinner and stuff. But I don't get too crazy. I just, I don't have kids yet, but I'm kind of a family man. My family's close. My friends are close. So I don't really have too many big hobbies. You know, just kind of read, like to spend time in nature and walk and that sort of stuff. But yeah, just a lot of quality time with the people I love and do jiu-jitsu. That's pretty much all I want to do. So. Yeah.
You know, I read that you used to play basketball in high school. Do you ever get on the court anymore?
Those days are long gone for sure. I used to be really, really into basketball throughout childhood. And I think there's actually a lot of parallels between basketball and jiu-jitsu. I definitely feel like that same kind of when you're in the zone and you're hitting all your shots and your moves are linking well together and all that, it's kind of interesting. But I think there's a lot of parallels with jiu-jitsu. But yeah, I was more of like kind of like a Dennis Rodman type player, like just grab rebounds and foul people and hustle plays. I wasn't really known for my finesse. But yeah, definitely no basketball anymore. My knees and my back and just spraining my ankle, things like that. I can't risk now being full time. Yeah. So that's probably another reason why I don't do much other than jiu-jitsu, because I want to try to keep my body in one piece as much as possible.
That's true. Yep.
I did do some student staff basketball games when I was teaching, though. Definitely mopped up those 7th graders, no doubt.
I couldn't imagine if you were still teaching today. And, with your background and all these kids seeing you on YouTube and all over the internet, any of these kids mouth off to you or don't do their homework. It's like, I would definitely be doing my homework in your class.
Yeah, I think that wears off after a few months of knowing someone. I don't think they think like that anymore. But I'm sure, definitely, when I was first teaching, there was a lot of that where kind of like, whoa, this is a big guy. But yeah, I think once I'm pretty friendly, so I think they get settled in. It's just with kids, I definitely find the biggest thing is having high expectations. So I'm definitely more kind of quiet, and I'm not a yeller or things like that. I've had people bring their kids to the academy and be like, my kid really needs someone to kind of get in their face and do that sort of stuff. And it's like, that's not my style, and I don't think people really respond well to that sort of stuff. So I'm definitely more of a expectations and Jedi mind tricks type teacher for sure.
That's awesome. Could you describe your BJJ style or your game to our listeners here?
My style, actually, I feel like is really, it's always changing and growing, and I feel like recently I actually have a lot better idea of exactly what I want my jiu-jitsu to be. And I think it's really interesting as you go through more levels and you get higher and higher in the ranks and more experience. I think you start, at least it's been my experience, to start looking at kind of what do I want my game to say, what do I want to basically want my jiu-jitsu to say about the art and what we're trying to do. And obviously Rafael has been a huge influence on my game. Shanji's been another person who's had a huge influence on my game. And one of my favorite things that piece of advice I've had from Shanji in particular, when he talked about, the style of jiu-jitsu and thinking about jiu-jitsu, is because I used to be really obsessed with just competition training, and, you turn the timer on. So whatever rank you are, it's blue belt, I'm going for 6 minutes, balls out, crazy, and then you're done after the match, or 7 minutes as a purple, and so on during training. And when I first started training with him, he'd just no timer. You might be training for 30 minutes straight, an hour straight, just rolling, just training. And that was definitely a different experience for me, and really changed my perspective. That he kind of said you should be able to win in the gi, you should be able to win no gi, you should be able to win with IBJJF rules, ADCC rules, submission only, whatever the rule set, your jiu-jitsu shouldn't be so small that it only fits into that box and the rules really define it. So that was huge for my game, and I really feel like based on a lot of that, I want to have a very complete game. I work my takedowns a lot. I try to really seek out my weaknesses. I used to be only kind of a guard player, and so now I feel like I'd rather play on top. I really like pressure passing, trying to just be relentless with the pressure and just not give the opponent any room, any space to try to get out, and it's just eventually get to the mount and get the X choke or the arm bar. So I think for me, the more I go, the simpler I want my style to be, which is either sweep, pass, mount, and finish, or takedown, pass, mount, finish. And that's kind of in the end what I'm trying to really do with my game. So
when you were confronted with that jiu-jitsu for any different set of rules and thought of it like not a time limit, but you're just going to go roll and just train, and is that kind of when you boiled it down to just having a real simple game to where you just have these few goals: sweep, pass and mount and choke. That kind of game works for everything. I mean, it doesn't matter what kind of rules you have. That's going to work great. Is that kind of when that happened for you?
Yeah, I think that's definitely, as I keep going, and I think probably right when I started really having a few years where because I didn't start training with Rafael until late into my purple, and then I didn't make the switch to the team until I was a brown belt. So there was kind of a whole re-education that took place. And I think after a few years, that's kind of when it really sank in that, when you look at a person like Shanji, Rafael or Salo, or, even the greats in the past, Jacare, Hajer, Margarita, and even today you have Rodolfo, Buchecha. You're talking about guys who have good takedowns, have a good guard, good submissions, good passing. There's really not a whole lot of deficiencies. And I think that's really I think the highest form of the game is being able to jiu-jitsu. It shouldn't be condensed to where you can only win by advantage. You can only try to beat someone by stalling or doing weird things. I think there's too much of that I see in the game, and it's not how I want to express my jiu-jitsu for sure. I think that coming from the samurai, you want to. I think that's huge for me when I think about jiu-jitsu is that, it's descended from the samurai and that you should keep thinking about finishing, right? You don't see two samurais meet in the forest and one tries to nick the other and run off. It's only one thing. You draw your sword, you go for the kill, and that's how I feel about when I'm in a match, I'm going to try to finish the guy for sure. And so I really, I know I've been submitted in the past, but I don't have, I think a lot of me would rather be submitted than lose by advantage, because I think that I want to go out there for the kill and kill or be killed, I guess. So
I like your example of the samurais. It reminds me of different animals that will fight for a mate. Some animals will fight basically to the death, and some animals kind of do a dance, and the winner of the dance wins. It's like what kind of an animal do you want to be? Do you want to
You don't want to. Yeah, I think that's the whole idea of jiu-jitsu digressing, the de-evolution into the 50-50 and things like that. I think that there's obviously I would never condemn any position. I just think the whole thing, the only time that jiu-jitsu is not very fun is when you can tell that there's not the intention to try to finish the fight, and when you run into guys who are not trying to finish the fight. I don't like it. I understand the gamesmanship, and but I do believe there's way too many. I thought Salo had a really, really good quote. I talked to him after the Worlds last year, and I lost to Rodolfo, and it was he's really on another level than I was last year, and so I looked at that and was like, okay, what am I going to be doing between now and next year when we fight again? And I talked to Salo, and he watched the tournament, and he was looking at these matches, and he said, I think there's a lot of people who want to win gold medals, but there's not a lot of champions. And I think that is really, I've really changed my mind as well, the distinction between being someone who wins medals and someone who is a champion. And I think you can see the difference when you see people step onto the mat. That there are some people who are really representing the art very, very well, and I think there's other people who you can tell their only intention is to try to win, which I respect because I like to win a lot, but I think the way you do it also matters.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. We're talking a lot about training here. How often do you train? Do you train multiple times a day, or let's just hear your little training schedule?
Yeah, my training schedule, actually, I've just kind of synthesized everything. It's had to change and adapt as I've kind of gone from when I started training jiu-jitsu was my freshman year in college. And obviously, college, you have a little more free time than you do as you keep going. But once I got a job and stuff, for right now, I've kind of condensed my training. I think my problem before was just trying to train too much. And now I actually train a little bit less, but I try to make it really efficient. So I'll train 5 double days, basically. So Monday through Friday, I'll do 5 sessions of conditioning. Green strength stuff. Luke Tyree handles all that for me. So I'll do a lot of kettlebell work, a lot of pull-ups, stretching, just kind of conditioning with kind of a physical therapy vibe to it. So that's 5 days a week, and then basically in the morning, and then in the evening, I do 3 days where I'll do jiu-jitsu, and then 1 day judo, 1 day wrestling. So that's kind of how I've broken my schedule down. Pretty much all of my sessions are about an hour and 20 minutes to an hour and a half, and that's kind of come from some research that I've read in a book called Talent is Overrated. And Talent Code's another really good resource on that, where they kind of talk about that after about an hour and 20 minutes to an hour and 30 minutes, your engagement goes down and you can actually have negative gains from overtraining and, kind of mentally not being there. So I'm definitely big on get in, do your work, and get out. They get back to relaxing and being able to, increase your power bar back to where you're going to be excited to train again. And that was something that was kind of a problem for me, as I was starting to not really want to train. I was kind of going through the motions. And recently, in these last 6 months, with some of the changes I've made, I've been really excited to train. I go to judo class and I'm really excited to do judo. And, same when I wake up, do my green strength, I know I'm going to get stronger. I'm going to be more flexible. I'm going to be healthier. So just kind of little, just trying to get 1% out of every session. And I do, like I said, five double days, and it's been really the best for me. Sometimes I'll throw in a Saturday, but most Saturdays, like this morning, I went and had breakfast with my wife. We're going to go up to Portland and have a little kind of day to ourselves up in Portland and just relax. And so I think that's another piece that's been huge, is just making sure I'm relaxing, making sure I've been adding meditation in just to try to make sure that my recovery is as good as possible too. So.
Well, it's a very interesting routine you have, and it sounds like you're training very hard. I noticed you said 3 weeks of 3 days of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and 1 of wrestling and 1 of judo. That's 2. Your wrestling, is that basically for the takedowns?
Yeah. I have a wrestling coach out here, and just working on, grappling is grappling. Yeah. I really, I'm not known for my takedowns. I've been, it's something that I actually read an article in Gracie Magazine. They had Holeta, and I've always been a huge Holeta fan. I know he's kind of an old school guy. If you don't know who Holeta is, you got to check out Holeta on YouTube. He's from, I think, 99 to 2002. He had 4 world titles in the medium heavy, and he finished second in the open class twice. So he's a Hall of Famer and a really amazing. Just the best guard, basically, is kind of what most people note him for. His guard he's kind of almost like a Keenan. I feel like he's kind of a new school Holeta, but Holeta, he was saying that basically he always trained his takedowns, even though he might not use them a lot. He would always be training judo. He'd always be trying to train his wrestling, but he just realized he wasn't going to take down maybe solo. So, there's always going to be people who have strengths than you in different areas, but I still feel like you should be training everything. So for me, wrestling, and again, I like training wrestling. I love the feeling of it. I know it adds to my game a lot. Even, just the ability to, even if you're a guard player, I think it's important to do wrestling, because a lot of times you got to finish a single leg. You got to come up and you can not get taken down yourself. So there's a lot of reasons, I think, to cross train, and judo and wrestling are, like I said, I love them just in and of themselves, but I know that they really help my game a lot. So
I think you kind of hinted at this, that you have a coach, but when you go and you train judo and you train wrestling, are you training with different people than when you train BJJ?
Yeah. I go up to Portland Judo up in Portland, Oregon, and my coach, Andy Hung, he was alternate for the Olympic team a little while ago, and he was the San Jose State captain of the judo team. So he's very legit, and he's been helping me with my judo for a long time and just getting comfortable on my feet. So I just take a class, just put on my white belt a few years ago, and I'm a brown belt now.
Congratulations. But, awesome.
There's a lot of work to do, and I just, when I go, I don't try to do jiu-jitsu when I go to judo class. I try to just do judo, and I love it. I love being a student. It kind of is nice too, because being out here, a lot of times I don't have a lot of coaching. I have to kind of set up my own training, and that's one thing I've been doing, is trying to make it so I have to think about my own training as little as possible. So that's one thing. When I go to judo class, I just get to be one of the guys and just train and learn. And I don't have to have the pressure of, being known for jiu-jitsu or anything, like being a competitor or anything like that. I just get to kind of be one of the guys, one of the faces. So yeah, I try to, but then when I train with my guys, one thing I've been training is I'm starting all my rounds on the feet recently. And so I'll get to train my judo with the guys from my academy, and I'll obviously kind of share what I'm learning as part of my jiu-jitsu classes. We'll usually do at least 10 minutes of judo a day, so I'll mix it in.
And I noticed you talked about Luke Tyree there in green strength, and I've seen, man, he's just doing wonders for everybody. I know he's training you, he's training Rafael and Justin Rader and all you guys, and your guys' conditioning is just off the hook. You just keep bringing it and bringing it and bringing it, and never get tired, it seems like.
Yeah, he's totally changed my game, being able to match up with him and get linked up. And he's really, because I've always been interested in it throughout my career, and I kind of started doing CrossFit when I first was like a blue belt, and that actually helped me a lot compared to doing no conditioning. But then I was doing too much conditioning, I think, too hard of workouts where it was detracting from my jiu-jitsu. And once I got hooked up with Luke, he just got such a comprehensive view of everything, and he's always trying to learn, and he's really just a black belt in all that stuff. He tries to keep things really simple, and, a lot of the strength stuff, he's just he's got a very clear mind on a lot of this stuff where it's about longevity, it's about health, and it's about being strong. So it's not about trying to do workouts that are potentially dangerous or not necessarily going to be helping for jiu-jitsu. Only do exercises that help jiu-jitsu, and doing a lot of things that are very basic. A lot of crawling, a lot of hanging, a lot of pull-ups, just a lot of stretching and yoga work. And then obviously, like I said, a lot of kettlebells and deadlifts and things that are very good for jiu-jitsu. But the other thing is he doesn't try to overload us where we're working so much that it takes away from the jiu-jitsu. I just feel like when I go down there, I'm lucky because I have a little setup in my downstairs, so I just get to commute down to the 50 feet down to my gym in my house to do my green strength in the morning, and I know I'm going to feel healthier and I'm going to get stronger, and so there's pretty much nothing to not like about it. It's just I'm going to be better after every session. So he's the man. I know he's starting to come up with his plan for a lot of online stuff. So keep your eyes peeled for that, guys. He's going to be putting out his content online. So all the listeners out there, definitely, if I couldn't recommend Green Strength more. It's really, really changed my whole game.
I'm just curious, how did you get your relationship started with Rafael Lovato Jr.?
I actually started training. He has an affiliate up in Seaside, Oregon, which is about 2 hours away from me here in Salem. And Zach and Nate Adamson, the Adamson brothers, they're getting to be pretty well known within the community as well. I met Zach down at the University of Oregon when we were going to school there, and we started training together in Eugene when I was a white belt and he was a blue belt. And then he moved back to Seaside, and his brother Nate and him opened their academy, and they met Rafael at a tournament, kind of got to talking with him, and then they had him out for a seminar, and they kind of just connected from there. And one of the times that he came out, they invited me up to train, and I remember it's pretty funny because I had already won Pan Ams as a purple belt, and I think it was either right after Worlds or before Worlds at purple, where I had been having a lot of success and kind of thinking like, okay, it's cool. I'm going to kind of test myself against this black belt world champion, kind of see where I'm at. And there was definitely some misconceptions about how I thought that role was going to go because, I was humbled, very, very humbled, and I had a lot of years of just being humbled by Rafael and Shanji and Solo, and really, really have totally changed everything about my game. And so, once I trained with Rafael, and because I was training with a Megaton affiliate, and definitely nothing bad to say about those guys. They definitely really taught me a lot of really good jiu-jitsu, and it just kind of, I was at the point where I knew that if I wanted to achieve my goal of being, one of the best, I needed to really be training with someone who was my size. The other thing that attracted me to training with Rafael too is that since he was in Oklahoma, he was in kind of a similar situation where he didn't have his instructors with him all the time, and he was still being really successful, and he was having his own, running his academy too, and still had, his lifestyle was very similar to what I was trying to do. So it made sense to just connect, and we've been, good friends ever since. So I think it's been 5 years now that I've been under him.
Awesome. We've talked about who you're training with, how you train. Do you have any competitions coming up here recently, or coming up here in the near future, or any short-term goals you'd like to share?
Yeah, for sure. Last year actually was a really, really busy year. I did 14 competitions last year. Awesome. Yeah, so lots of travel, lots of time away and competing, and I think it was really good for me. I was able to, I had a really successful year last year as far as winning a lot of the mid-sized tournaments, and this year is all about the big tournaments. So far this year I've been traveling a lot less, really trying to focus on my training, because I just feel like the way I have it set up, like I said, I'm excited to train. I know I'm getting better every day, stronger, more technical, more flexible, more mentally ready to go for battle. And so it's just been more important, I think, for me to be at home training and learning and teaching and getting my academy to where it needs to be. My wife's about to quit her job to help me run the business full time. So there's a lot of things going on with that. So it's been better to be home. So really this whole first half of the year has all been focused on Worlds. And so Pan Am's was kind of used as like a checkpoint. So my only tournament I've done this year has been Pan Am's. That's the only trip I've taken. So I'm about to go out to Oklahoma and train with Rafael for Worlds Camp here in a few weeks. And then from there I'll be at Worlds. After Worlds, there's some different options on what I'm going to do, but I'm really looking forward to ADCC. And I haven't been invited yet, but I'm doing everything as if I'm going to be invited, and that's 100% my plan, that I'll be out there for that. And so those are this year's kind of taking a step back and just really thinking about trying to take my game to another level on the big stage. So Pan Am's was a good progress check, and so really looking forward to Worlds, and that's kind of everything's focusing on that right now.
Yeah. Just to let everybody know that we are recording this on April 25th, 2015, so we're a little bit, I guess, talking about the future, but it might have already happened.
Yeah, because when this comes out, you'll know how Worlds went, so you'll know how the plan came together.
We'll do a little time traveling.
Yeah.
You mentioned the book, The Talent Code, and that's one of our favorite authors. We actually had him on the podcast a while back and interviewed him about jiu-jitsu, yeah. And it was fun because he didn't know anything about jiu-jitsu. So it was like the rare times that we had somebody on the show that we could actually beat up if given the opportunity.
Well, I still think he could have probably took us.
But he was a lot of fun to have on the show, and he had a lot of insight. And in that book he would go and find areas where there was like a small area and they had a lot of talent in that area, and he would go figure out what they were doing differently. And you mentioned it with like Lovato, like they're isolated from everybody else, but they're still doing so well, and so are you. What's with that? How can you explain part of that?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something that's always been, since I was young, like I said, I've been really interested in winning and trying to be the best and all these things. And I think that it's been a study of mine just throughout my life. Is like, what are people doing differently? How do I, get as good as I can? And I think that it's definitely a lot of factors that go into it. I think, like he's talking about ignition, I think is a huge thing. Like you have to have that spark, that passion, which I think a lot of jiu-jitsu is just kind of naturally that way. But I think having that mastermind where you have other like-minded individuals who are trying to achieve the same goals is huge, and trying to really push each other. So maybe you don't have because I think that a lot of times what I hear is when people kind of have their instructor with them all the time or really access to high-level training, I think there can be a kind of people resting on their laurels a little bit where, I can train with that person next time, or, maybe I'm not going to go into the gym today. Whereas if I get a session in and I know Shanji's going to be around for 3 days, and I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to get the most out of this trip? And then when I get the most out of that trip, I try to take that home, all the things that I learned, and then I try to make sure my plan is based on getting better at the things that we talked about working on, things like that. But yeah, I don't know. It's definitely an interesting thing, and I think obviously you see that with different MMA camps and things like that. It's not always constant either. You can be on top for a while, and then things change because there's more innovation and there's more development in the arts. I think the big thing for jiu-jitsu is just always wanting to stay open to learning and trying new things and not being real set in your ways necessarily, as far as I think some martial arts you kind of see like I'm the master, and so all the information will be distributed through me, instead of with jiu-jitsu what's so unique is that you have the internet, and now there's access to such good content everywhere. And so I think it's more about, just like I said, getting a group of people who are like-minded and really wanting to do the same things together. I think that's going to be probably the biggest piece of, wanting to, or taking your academy to the next level and your group. But I'm definitely trying to build that out here in Salem. I know Oregon's obviously not known for having really good jiu-jitsu, but I know I'm bringing up some killers in my youth program, and I know my friends who own academies around the state are doing the same. The other Lovato affiliates up here, one is in Eugene with Performance Grappling, and one's in Seaside with the Adamson brothers. And we're kind of collaborating as much as we can out here. So yeah, I think that's probably the $1 million question: is how do you really get to the top? And I think there's a lot of factors. So
you talk about the question how to get to the top and everything, and you're talking about how you might only have 3 days with Salo or Rafael or somebody. And I noticed from a lot of people I talk to, so they don't forget stuff, they use a training journal. Do you use a journal at all in your training?
Yeah, it's actually something I've just added this year. So I write down my workouts that I get from Luke, and then I write down what I've been working on for my techniques, whether it's judo or wrestling, jiu-jitsu, just kind of what's my focus. I use it when I watch tape as well. So I'm on Rafael's website. It's probably where I get the most of my content. That's one thing that's really nice for me, is being able to basically be connected with Rafael's teaching out here, because I can just log onto his website and watch whatever he's doing and improve my game. So that's huge.
So do you go back and look at your journal and reference that, or is it just a way to keep track and make sure you're doing the right things, or how do you use that?
Yeah, I don't review it as much. I review it kind of thinking about, when's the last time I worked on certain techniques, or what sort of, what weights was I using, or how many reps was I able to do of these different exercises. So I kind of track my progress in that way, for sure. And I think it's just kind of also to help keep me on track, to know that I'm doing the set amount of work that I want to be doing every week. But I think that there's a lot of room for growth. I know there's a few services that have put out journals for jiu-jitsu. I know I've studied some stuff from like triathlons, keeping track of how you slept and what sort of nutrition you had and what your mood's like. I think those are all things I'm really interested in and trying to develop further, that I'm kind of playing around with and talking to some of my other friends who do jiu-jitsu about. But I think there's a lot of room for growth there. But I definitely started using it, and I like it a lot.
Well, cool. I'm just curious, do you have like when you compete, before you step on the mat to face your opponent, do you have like a little ritual you do, or anything that you do to prepare yourself?
That's something I think is really important. I think I've kind of developed that as I've gone, what kind of warm-up I like to do, how early I like to get to tournaments, what sort of music I like to listen to. All that stuff I think is important because there's so many, there's a lot of factors that you can't control that when you go to a jiu-jitsu tournament. And so I think the more you can try to make that's something I've tried to do is try to make that the same every time I train, try to have that same kind of process, the same visualization, the same warm up every time. And so that way it puts me in that state where I know, okay, it makes me, I think it calms the nerves because you're used to your body and you're so used to doing that routine before you step on the mat for a regular practice that when you do it for a tournament, it's going to hopefully help weaken your nerves and make it so that you're more tuned in for those matches. I definitely feel like the less I think, the better I do. So the less conscious kind of thoughts I'm having, the more my jiu-jitsu just flows, and I feel like things really come together for me. The less expectations I have, and just kind of embracing the fight and seeing how it develops. So, like I said, I mentioned it earlier, but meditation has been really big. So I try to do a lot of breathing exercises, and especially when I'm at the tournament, right before I step on the mat, the simplest one I'll do is I'll just count up to 5. So I'll breathe in and breathe out 1, breathe in, breathe out 2. And so then once you get up to 5, then you start back at 1. And it's kind of an interesting exercise because a lot of times you'll find yourself counting up to you're at 8 or 9 and well, okay, I got to go back. You kind of you'll lose track, and you just got, okay, I got to dial myself back in and get it back in the zone. So I like that one a lot. If you haven't done any meditation, that's the easiest way I think to get into it.
You mentioned twice now about a zone. You said you enjoyed playing basketball, and it's similar to jiu-jitsu because when you're playing and it's the heat of the moment, you're just playing basketball and you're in the zone. You don't think about it. You're just playing basketball, and it just happens. And then you get this similar feeling in jiu-jitsu when things are going well for you, and your moves are working. You're not having to concentrate. You're just doing what you want to do, and everything's going your way. Do you have I guess that would be a really hard question, how to get to that zone, is this meditation help get you there, you think?
Yeah, I think, I don't know if you're familiar with the book Flow, but I've been really interested in flow states and that sort of idea where you're kind of losing track of time. They say, you're so engaged with what you're doing that you're not thinking about anything else. And I think that's kind of what we're touching on, is that when you get into that place, and recently I feel like I've been getting there a lot during training, and at the Pan Ams I felt like I was there in a lot of my matches where it was just kind of flowing and just happening, and I was just in the moment. And so I think that getting there, on a consistent basis, I think has to do with, again, the preparation, and like we're talking about, having those routines that kind of set you up for it. And I think that takes a lot of time to kind of tinker with, and I think that's different for everyone, and I've kind of had to figure that out for myself. But I think the meditation is definitely, I think, a huge part of that, because I think it just kind of prepares your mind to just be open and not kind of thinking about, I think when I was younger I was too concerned about winning and I think trying to finish really fast and not really being, I was just thinking about the gold medal instead of thinking about how I was going to, be in the moment in each match and let it develop and just kind of unfold, because each match is kind of its own story, And so I think being open to that and just not having too much expectations or things that you think are going to happen, the more likely you are to get into that zone, from my experience at least.
So we have a great opportunity here with you on the show, having competed so much and done so well. If you have one of your students going to do their first tournament, what advice would you give them during the training phase of the getting ready for the tournament?
The training, I think a lot of it, and that's one thing that I've read that I think is huge, is just trusting in your training. That if you go into a tournament and you think that your training isn't the best, or you haven't put out all the effort that you can, I think that's gonna definitely get in your head. So the more I think you can just I always try to tell my students, focus on what you're going to do. Because I think it's easy to focus on what they're going to do. What if they do this or that? No, you want to think, I'm going to come out, I'm going to get these are the grips I'm looking for, I'm going to pull guard, these are the positions I like, then try to get to your positions, try to get to where your strengths are going to be at your disposal, because you don't want to let the fight happen where you're letting them get the fight going and you're kind of being more reactive. I think the more you can try to put your sequences together and get to where you want to be, the better it is. The main thing I try to stress with all my students who are just competing is, and it's really cliche by now, but it's just have fun and learn. It's because it's hard, but when you listen to a lot of the stories about the best guys, Rodolfo or Buchecha, or a lot of these guys, you hear like how I would lose. I think I read something from Buchecha where he said he lost like his first 8 tournaments, where he like lost in the first round. And jiu-jitsu's a sport where perseverance is king. If you want to be better than people who are around you at jiu-jitsu, keep doing jiu-jitsu. And a lot of them are probably going to not keep doing it. That's the easiest way to ensure being really good, is to just keep doing it. And so I try not to put too much pressure on them as far as results. And one thing that I really like, and one thing I've adapted is, after I do my practices and after tournaments, is a little thinking exercise where you write down 3 things that were positive and 1 thing you want to work on. And I try to do that no matter. So if you win, like I had one of my students did their first tournament, one of my teens, and she won all 6 of her matches in under 2 minutes by submission. So you're thinking like, well, there's nothing to work on.
Wow.
But that's definitely not true, so there's lots to work on. And then I had another one of my students do his first tournament, and he was one of my teens, and he lost all 3 of his matches. But, but then the same thing. Well, what are 3 things that went well? What's 1 thing you want to work on? Because otherwise you can I think that's something that makes it so that you're in that same zone where you're thinking positively, you're trying to frame things positively, and then you're always thinking, what can I do to improve? And I think otherwise, in jiu-jitsu, the highs can be too high and the lows can be too low, where you could, and really the difference between winning 6 matches in under 2 minutes and losing all 3, losing 6 matches like that is the level of competition. And so, there's going to be people that you fight that you're going to be more prepared to beat, and it might not mean, and if you kind of think, you don't want to let that make it so that you're going to take the foot off the accelerator. I think you want to just stay with your routines. How can I get make things better? And these are the things that went really, really well. And this is the 1 thing I want to work on. Because otherwise, I think you can start digressing into a lot of negative areas if it's the day where you lose and then, I suck. And, because then those things start manifesting in your training. And then that's when people start getting down on themselves and not wanting, then quitting is an option where it's like, that can't be in your mind,
Yeah, what I really like about what you're saying, the part on, focus on what you're going to do. The key to get better is persistence, which is all up to you. And it's funny, well, not funny, but we had just been talking with Jared Dopp, and he had a quote, and it was basically, it's up to you. Don't be looking for the shortcuts. Just focus on yourself. And we were listening to that, and then, your teammate here, and then you're coming back with the same stuff. I was just like, no wonder you guys are all so successful.
Yeah, I think that's definitely, again, you're trying to link up with guys who are on that same wavelength as you and trying to push themselves. And I know Dopp, like I said, Dopp's one of my favorite guys. I have a lot of admiration for Dopp because I've done a lot of training with Dopp, and thinking about how he's done recently and, how fast he's gotten better and his performance at ACC. And, he's a guy that is going to be one of the real greats in the sport. And he's definitely in that same boat. I think, mentally we definitely click on a lot of those things. And a lot of that comes from Rafael's obviously connected with all that and him being our coach. But I definitely think that the biggest thing that I've come to understand recently is that you can't try to live someone else's journey. You don't want to be and I think it's just a life lesson. You don't want to be looking at how, oh, that person won this tournament, that, or, are they better than me, or that sort of idea where I don't know. I've thought about that stuff in the past where it's like, I want to win as many medals as fast as possible, and I want to get my black belt as fast as possible, and all those sort of things. And I think if you're looking at other people and how they're progressing, everyone's got a different story. Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses, different life circumstances, and you have to embrace where you're at. I have students who I wish I started when I was 10 or something.
Yeah.
That's not a really productive thought when you're 40, because that's not how this whole experience works. We can only try to get better from the point that we're at.
Yeah.
So you're not, when you say something like that, you're not embracing your journey. that energy's lost wishing something to happen that there's no possibility it can. So, instead think about trying to be the most, have the best training and do the best you can as a Master 3 or whatever it is,
Yeah.
One other thing I was just thinking of too is, you're talking about the people you've looked up to or watched. You're talking Hall of Famers and the heroes and mentioning names. And I was just thinking here, probably in a year or two, we're going to be just hearing Dop and Puopolo. It was, just, it just made me start thinking. I was like, you guys are killing it. You guys are phenomenal, just incredible. And I was like, it'll be funny a couple years from now, and it'll just be, I don't know, you guys are really basically at the top now, and I just see you even just getting better and better.
Well, yeah, it's definitely, we're trying to push it as far as we can and trying to take it to the top for sure. And I feel like I have the best coaches in the world, and good training partners like Dop and some of my guys out here. And I just feel like recently that's kind of like, I think the biggest realization I had after Pan Am's is I have a team of, at least a dozen people who are helping me. I have Luke for conditioning. I have Rob Nahar, who's working on all my flexibility stuff. I have a chiropractor, and he's kind of a physical therapist. Marcus Cool, he helps me with all my recovery stuff. I have Rafael, I have Shanji, Salo. My wife has a huge part in my business and helping me and all the recovery stuff. I have people who help me with business. It's really, I have my assistants who help me teach and run these classes, and a supportive academy that, I have this huge team of people who are helping me, and I just keep knowing that if I'm putting in the work, we're going to keep getting results. And, like I said, I think having I just think that with Salo and Rafael and Shanji, I want to prove that they are, not only the best, some of the best jiu-jitsu fighters, that they're some of the best jiu-jitsu coaches. And so, my goal and my plan is to definitely, be one of those Hall of Famers and really try to hit the top. So we'll see, but I definitely feel like everything's coming together right now.
That's cool. It sounds like you have an amazing team of support there with you. Do you have any sponsors you want to thank?
Yeah, for sure. That's the other thing. Got lots of people who are helping me on that end. Origin they sponsor me for all my gear, and they take really good care of me. All their stuff's American made in Maine. I've been out to the factory a couple times now, and just really, really good group of people, and just trying to make the best gi possible. And I think if you look at a lot of the innovations and some of the videos that they post of the work, it's really inspired. And definitely, I didn't know that you could have a human being. Pete Roberts runs all their stuff, and I don't know if anyone could be possibly thinking about the gi like he is. All the different ways that he's tried to make it better. So Origin's been huge. Obviously, Green Strength, Luke Tyree for all that. Elite Flexibility, Rob Nahar, making sure that I'm getting more flexible every day. Iron Lion Soap, they've been a new sponsor, but man, I can't shower without their soap now. It's like the best part of the day is like washing off all of the training, and they got some really cool stuff. I'm a huge fan of their soap, so check out Iron Lion Soap if you haven't yet. And I hope there's not people I'm forgetting. Portland Judo, Derek Bartleman, my wrestling coach. There's lots of people, like I said, who are out there helping me. So thank you.
Yeah, we'll put links to those on the show notes and on the website as well.
And
Cool.
James, how could some of our listeners get a hold of you if they have any questions or would like to follow you or anything of that sort?
Yeah, the best way is on Facebook. So I have my Facebook fan page, James Puopolo, BJJ. So it's and then Puopolo, it's Puopolo. So that's the best way. I kind of post there the most. I also have Instagram, which is JR Puopolo. So you can check me out there. But I definitely appreciate all the support that I've received from the jiu-jitsu community. Lots of people, I think, kind of hopefully relate to the story, just because I didn't start jiu-jitsu until I was older, and I had a full-time job and all those sort of things, and going to school and trying to, basically claw my way to the top. So, we're still on the way, but I'm 28, and I feel like physically I've never been healthier and never been stronger, never been more mentally prepared. And so I really feel like right now, this year is all about kind of assembling all of the supplies at base camp, and now we're making the long walk to the summit is the plan. So
cool, and it's going to be fun to keep up with you as you do that.
Yeah, and we really appreciate you taking the time, coming down to our show and dropping knowledge on us. So thank you very much there, James.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Definitely fun to talk to you guys, and look forward to being on in the future. Hopefully, after winning some of these big tournaments, let's get together again.
Oh, definitely, we'd love that.
Absolutely. You've made us laugh and you made us think. So you're welcome back anytime, James.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
All right, that wraps up our interview with James Puopolo. I want to thank him again for hopping on the line with us and entertaining us and educating us, and hopefully doing the same for you guys.
Yeah, we had a great time. Very informative. We learned a lot. We shared knowledge. We gained knowledge from him, and we had some laughs. Good time.
Yeah, and he's a super active competitor, so swing by his Facebook page and like it, and keep up with him and watch him as he gets out there and does his thing there. He's a lot of fun to have on the show, Gary.
Definitely.
Next week, we have an interview with a couple of the athletes from Submission Series Pro, the Takeover. It's a submission-only event in Canada. It's on June 20th. So check us out next week. We've got more than one interview coming up, guys.
2 interviews for the price of 1. You can't beat that.
It's always fun to see how the event's coming around and what's happening with the Submission Series events that are up there in Canada.
Yeah, so definitely tune in next week. Like Byron said, we had an interview before their one of the Submission Series before. If I remember right, too, it was streamed on. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's on. Yeah, you can go by and watch the old ones too. Still.
Yep. So, very fun thing to check out there.
Yeah, there's some great matches last time, man. It was a lot of fun to watch that. We do have a email list. If you have trouble keeping up with us, swing by the website, bjjbrick.com, or on the Facebook page. You can sign up for the email list by putting in your name and email, and you get an email every Tuesday that kind of keeps you up at what's going on with the podcast.
And definitely, I know we talked about it earlier, but don't forget about our Byron's audiobook. It's only $11.99. Roadmap for your first year of jiu-jitsu. Check it out. Definitely be helpful.
Yeah, Gary, if you were to make an audiobook, what would it be about, man?
Dogs.
Dogs?
Yeah, dogs. Or the Kimura.
How impossible it is to Kimura a dog?
You could Kimura a dog.
Oh.
It's been done.
It's been People do it all the time.
Actually, to be honest, I roll my dogs all the time. I put Kimuras on them. It may not bend like our arm, but you can still Kimura. You can sweep off of that.
Yeah.
What I like to do is I like to sweep. I'll get the hook in, I'll sweep, and go straight to side mount, but I'll keep the underhook. So really, dogs can get pretty good.
Yeah, dogs do like wrestling around if you get the right kind of dog.
If you get the right kind of dog. I tell you, it's very hard when the dog knows how to back out to guillotine a dog. Like, most of the dogs I've put guillotines in would just back right out because they don't have a chin.
They don't have a chin, yeah.
Yeah, yep.
What they lack in chin, they make up for in nose.
Yes, definitely.
Not quite myself. I have both, I guess, but...
And they're actually hard to get full mount on because the way their body is, they're normally on their side.
Aha.
Yeah.
Just kind of turn to the side always.
It's hard to get mount points.
I got a dog story, Gary.
Okay, let's hear it.
We're wrapping up the show here. I might as well share a story. This is about 2 months ago. I was at work making a medical call. I think it was on a child or a baby, which was everybody was okay. But we didn't know that getting there. So we get there. I come hurrying up to the door, and I got my medical gloves on. I got the bag on my shoulder, and I look at the person, and the baby's they're holding the baby, and the baby's crying. So that's good. The baby is crying. That's a good step. And it's one of those houses that you walk in, and then there's stairs immediately down to the basement, like right in front of you, and then the living room is off to the right. And I looked down the stairs, and there's a Great Dane who is angrily bolting up the stairs, and I have literally nowhere to go, and a sick baby I want to look at. I was like, oh man. And it was just sheer luck that because I definitely didn't want to deal with this dog. But there was a toddler gate at the top of the stairs. And there's no way it would have held back any kind of a dog. But I closed the gate and I latched that puppy. And the dog respected the gate. You could tell that he had been in trouble before for busting down the gate. And he angrily stayed on that side of the gate and barked at me and growled and stuff. But I was like, whoa, that was kind of a little intense second and a half that a toddler gate saved my butt,
Yeah, I was going to say, especially with a big old Great Dane coming at you.
But unexpected to see that coming up the stairs at me, and then you do the only one thing that I had available was a toddler gate. So,
yeah.
That was kind of a weird one.
I'm glad you made it out alive, Bart.
Well, thanks, Gary. I got one guy rooting for me.
Yeah, because I think the podcast would be done. You're the one who does all the work.
You can still do updates on the Facebook page and let everybody know what happened.
Yeah.
And then, even if I do survive that sort of thing, my good looks will be even more subtle, harder to detect.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely true right there.
So, it's definitely not a compliment to say somebody has subtle good looks, but Gary, we're at the point where I think we have subtle good looks. If you look long enough, you might notice something. Well, if you've enjoyed the show, we would definitely like to hear your thoughts on a review on iTunes or Stitcher Radio or anywhere else you could write a review. We definitely enjoy reading those, and if you could make it funny or humorous in any way, there's lots of quality examples of funny reviews on iTunes. We'd really like that as well.
Yeah, and I do want to make a note. Byron said anywhere you can write a review, we'd like it. Not necessarily. We do not want you to deface public property by writing reviews as graffiti. We do not want anybody to get in trouble. We do not condone that.
Yeah, we had that problem back in the earlier episodes, and we don't want that to kick up again.
Yeah, we don't. I think we're being watched by the FBI now because of that. But we're
listened to by the FBI.
We've been doing good.
We're being listened to by the FBI, but most of those guys do jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah, they pull guard a lot.
They do pull guard a lot. So, Gary and I, like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm moving, but I'm still in Wichita, and so is Gary. So
if you come through town, Byron may not be totally moved yet, but you can still get in contact with us, and we'd love to train with you.
Absolutely. Hit us up on the email or Facebook, and we'll try to schedule some time to hit the mats, my friends.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to talk to us and train with us. I mean, some people I think might be afraid now since Byron talked about our subtle good looks. They'll be a little afraid that they won't be able to live up to our standards. But I think Byron's. I don't think we do have subtle good looks. Well, Byron might, but I don't.
You maybe just have regular good looks.
I don't even know about that.
See, the subtle good looks means that you don't notice it right away. You have to kind of pay attention to see that maybe, but it's definitely not a compliment to say somebody has that.
So don't be afraid to train with us. We're a couple ugly grapplers.
But we do have a good time, and we do like to grapple.
That's true.
All right, well, we'll catch you next week, my friends.
Take care. We appreciate you listening.
And stay sweaty.
And don't forget to shower.
Thank you for listening. I hope you find the time today to roll. After all, The best way to get better at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is to do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.